How's it going? My name is GT.
Good, how are you? My name's Sam.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. We kind of talked a little bit in some emails, and I looked at your resume. Very impressive. Appreciate you again coming in today. Just have probably about 10 to 15 minutes of your time just to kind of, figure out if you're the right candidate for this position.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Well, we'll start off with Sam. Tell me about yourself.
Yeah, so I grew up my whole life in Minnesota in a northwest suburb of Minneapolis. Lifelong dream was to become a pilot, and that's essentially what brought me here to the University of North Dakota.
Okay, fair enough. Obviously, if I'm gonna potentially hire you as a new pilot to be able to join our crew, I have some expectations as far as professionalism and the way that I would hope that you'd be able to carry yourself as a pilot representing my company. Tell me some things that matter a lot to you about ethics and morals, that your principles. I'd like to know what matters the most to you when it comes to those kind of things.
Well, what matters to me when it comes to ethical principles, mainly just honesty and integrity.
Okay.
Those are just the two biggest things that matter to me.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it gets to a challenging situation where maybe lying would get you out of a bad situation, I would much rather have you tell me upfront and be honest, to sort of the situation from there, because I just from my experiences, what I've been around, I just think just lying just does no good. Being upfront and honest is really key to me.
Okay. I really like that response, because that also is a very important principle to myself, and it's definitely in aviation that is a very important principle as well. Everything we do is reliant on trust. If I can't trust you to be able to fly an aircraft in a safe manner or to be able to conduct operations, then there's no way that I can be able to have you as part of my crew. I like that answer. Thank you very much. Obviously with the expectations of being a commercial aviation pilot, you're going to be put in some kind of austere conditions where sometimes you might be forced to make decisions that are going to be difficult. Can you tell me about a time that you can remember, maybe potentially in your pilot training or maybe just growing up, any sort of experiences where you were put in a challenging situation and how you handled it?
Yeah. So thinking back on my pilot training and more of a challenging situation, so I was just coming up to my IFR check ride, and I complete the last lesson in the training course outline, or essentially what we have to complete. And instead of sending me in for the check ride, my instructor decides that he wants to do another flight, but this time make it extremely challenging. Mm-hmm. And of course I have to perform everything to ACS standards for what he's essentially throwing at me. Mm-hmm. And the first flight that he threw at me was extremely challenging, and it went pretty poorly.
Okay.
Just being completely honest, just nothing just seemed like it was going right.
How did you handle that?
Yeah, I was just missing radio calls. I was off altitude. Honestly, I just kind of had to take a step back and just kind of reassess what happened and how I'm going to do better the next time.
Okay.
And the second time went around, it went a little bit better. We were making progress, but still wasn't quite where I needed to be. And then the third time around, I nailed the flight, went really well, and I went into the check ride from there, and then I passed.
I think it's a pretty big key point. Obviously in our industry, we're never going to be perfect. We're going to make mistakes.
Right.
How we learn from those mistakes and how we grow and become a stronger pilot is what's going to make or break us. This isn't something that's meant for the faint of heart. I like the answer. Thank you. As far as safety goes, safety is paramount in aviation. Tell me what safety means to you, and safety and how you exemplify safety in your everyday life.
Yeah, in this industry, I'm sure as you know, safety is everything. As pilots, we're pressured to make decisions every day, and with that being said, we have to be safe with our decisions. Mm-hmm. We can't just be reckless and decide to go on a flight that we know is going to be hazardous.
Absolutely.
And so how I exemplify safety, just remembering the core values of it. Just thinking of an example here. So say I like my current job right now. A current problem working on the ramp out at Grand Forks is that people are on their phones a lot,
Mm-hmm.
which is against policy, for safety reasons.
Absolutely.
Because you can be situationally disoriented, not knowing what's going on around you.
Yeah, it's a distraction.
Yeah. So what I do, is I just leave my phone inside, so it's not tempting to me to pull it out on the ramp.
I like that.
Then I also try and call other people out on it to put their phones away. Not necessarily snitch on them, but just say, hey, just stay aware, put your phone away. Can be a hazardous job.
Yeah, polite, constructive criticism. That's good. It's setting example and taking a lead. Speaking of taking a lead, tell me, this doesn't have to be necessarily a situation involving aviation, but tell me a time in your life where a situation arose and you were forced to be put in a leadership role and you had to take that lead to be able to overcome that situation.
Right. So, just thinking back to my ramp job, something that happened this past summer actually is that we were being audited. So essentially, what happened is that the belt loader to the aircraft failed with certain bags on it. So meaning we can't load the aircraft. So what we had to do is we had to go find a new belt loader. And what I did in that situation is I had to go back into the storage facility and then bring out the new belt loader, hook it up to the airplane, move all the bags off the broken belt loader to the new belt loader, and then continue the loading process. And the result of that is the flight ended up getting out on time.
Very good. I'm glad you were able to handle that situation. I'm hoping that if we were to put you in a situation where you had to take initiative, take the leadership, that you would react a similar way. As far as back to kind of bring it back around towards the job description, I want to give you a scenario. I just want to evaluate how tell me how you would react to it best. Okay.
Right.
Say we had a flight. I had a flight that had to be scheduled, and I had a pilot that was initially scheduled for that flight, and they got sick, and I had to last minute request that you take over command of that aircraft to be able to execute that flight. What would you do to prepare yourself so that in a moment's notice you could be able to be best fit to be able to fly that aircraft, whether it was your physical condition, mental condition, whatever? How would you best prepare yourself to be able to be readily available to fly?
Yeah, so what I would do is just kind of like you were talking about, just staying physically and mentally ready. So on the physical side of it, I would constantly making sure I'm staying hydrated, constantly making sure I'm getting my meals in. Then on the mental side, just constantly assessing just my mental condition. Am I fit to fly?
Yeah.
Am I proficient? Am I covering all my operational procedures? Do I know my aircraft? Just kind of things like that.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
This might be a little bit more personal question, but it's something that helped me kind of I understand how you choose to spend some of your free time. Obviously when we are working, we don't work. We don't spend every single day to work a job. We also would like to have a life. Tell me about something that you do for enjoyment, your hobbies, and kind of how much time you would spend doing those hobbies.
So a hobby that I really enjoy doing is spike ball.
Okay.
A friend of mine got me really into it a couple years ago when I was up here over the summer doing some flying.
Okay.
And honestly, we would be doing that almost every day of the week.
Okay.
It was just a really fun way to pass the time and bond with friends.
Nice.
Really build fellowship that way. And
Right.
got to know some cool people.
Camaraderie is pretty important to you.
Yeah, it's teamwork.
Yeah, I like that. Teamwork is a pretty big component for us too. As far as time commitment to hobbies like spike ball or whatever else you decide to do, how much would you say on a weekly or daily basis do you think that you spend doing those those extracurriculars?
Well, during the summer, usually give or take on availability, between 5 and 10 hours.
Like a week or a daily?
A week.
Okay, that's fair. So maybe a couple hours a day at most.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. A healthy balance of life. Going to the gym, things like that.
Right.
How much do you usually try to your ballpark? What do you try to aim for sleep wise?
Sleep, I aim for 8 to 9 hours.
8 to 9 hours. Okay. Do you feel refreshed and ready to go after those 8 to 9 hours?
Yes.
Okay. Great. Very good. As far as ethical dilemmas, this is often a time a very hard subject for people to be able to handle when it comes to you know, like we talked about earlier, difficult situations. Um, can you think off the top of your head of an ethical dilemma that you were placed in, and give me a brief, you know, brief story about how you reacted to that, and if you reacted in a way that you didn't like, or how, if you could have done it differently, how would you have done it differently?
Yeah, so a spot where I was put in an ethical dilemma was right before my commercial check ride.
Okay.
So the night before, I ended up getting zero sleep.
Okay.
And from what we learned on the ground, is that is part of the I'm safe checklist, part of the fatigue aspect. And being completely honest, I think I was showing some hazardous attitudes of invulnerability. Just being young and healthy, I thought I was invulnerable to fatigue.
Yeah.
So then the day of the check ride for the flight, we get to the flight and I have an extremely hard time paying attention. I can't keep up with radio calls, can't keep up with the aircraft. And again, just being completely honest with you. And long story short, I ended up failing.
Okay. It happens.
Yeah, just because I forgot a radio call. Like I said, I just cannot pay attention for the life of me. And I really took that to heart. It just really woke me up. And how I applied that for future reference is an instructor of mine scheduled a sim early in the morning and a flight later in the afternoon. And the same kind of thing happened. It just ended up being a night of just restlessness. I wasn't able to sleep. So then I ended up doing the sim because I think, you know, I can handle it. It's just a simulator lesson. But then I told my instructor saying, hey, I didn't get enough sleep last night. I think I have to I'm safe the flight.
Okay.
And yeah, long story short, I ended up canceling and spent that time getting some extra rest. And
so you chose that, you know, the safe action or the smart action to be able to, instead of necessarily following through with that lesson
Yes.
that was intended, you chose to, you know, take the safe action and get some sleep that you recognized that you needed.
yes, granted that it was a dual lesson, not a check ride, but like we were kind of talking about, I really took that to heart, and it just really humbled me in that way.
I like that. Yeah, overwhelming yourself can often be a detriment, and
Right.
being able to self-recognize, self-diagnose, that shows character. I like that. You mentioned earlier when you talked about your hobbies that the reason why you like spike ball so much is that because it gives you an avenue to be able to have that kind of camaraderie and to be able to bond with other people. That is a very important aspect of our company. We rely on each other, and we see each other as a team. We work together in every aspect of that. As far as past experiences go, do you feel like you work well with others and are and enjoy being part of a team?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Can you tell me something about being part of that team that, you know, something that you two take pride in? So, what part of being part of a team matters the most to you?
Just being part of a team is just be able to step back and just really look at all that we accomplished together. I think especially applying it to aviation alone is that it really takes a community to build a pilot.
Absolutely.
Especially it's a very rigorous and challenging program. We rely on each other to help. I can think of multiple examples where I formed study groups with my friends.
Yes.
And long story short, we ended up with successful results on our state checks and our block exams. And yeah, just on the flight side as well, just kind of chair flying together, going over procedures, and yeah, it's just really it built that sense of community and friendship.
I like that. It's good. You know, obviously here we have plenty of pilots already, and we are looking to hire more. Something that's important in aviation is being able to keep up currency and being able to keep proficiency. We do have quite a few pilots, however, not many of them are instructor. I saw here on your resume that you are an instructor, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Would be something, a potential contribution to the team. Would you be willing to be able to take on additional roles? Obviously, with proper compensation, would you be willing to take on an instructor role to be able to help the team maintain our team of pilots maintain proficiency and currency?
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. I like that. You know, that's good that you're willing to step up to be able to do that kind of role. Obviously, you know, we would have to be able to get through the hiring process and be able to evaluate, and it would not be an immediate thing, but I like to know that that's something that you'd be open to in the future.
Right.
You know, obviously, no matter what job industry you go into, and especially in aviation, we are not perfect individuals. We make errors, we make judgment calls, and we don't always make the right decision. Maybe this might be a little bit more difficult for you to answer because it's not something you necessarily want to tell an employer about.
Right.
But like we talked about earlier, integrity and honesty is the most important aspect when it comes to working, on a team, essentially. Because if I can't trust you, you can't trust me, and we can't work too well together. Tell me about a situation where you potentially, or you did make an error or judgment call, and how that made you feel, and what you learned from that, so that you can be able to make a different judgment call in the future.
Yeah. So again, referring back to my job as a ramp route at the Grand Forks Airport, I remember this was pretty early on in my just in my training and my job in general. So obviously, as where we have to comply with airline schedules, we're on a pretty tight shift. So I remember one shift where I was pretty lax. Maybe I wasn't getting stuff done as quickly as possible. Long story short, I just made an error in timing. I thought we had more time than we did, and we really didn't. And if I remember correctly, I think the flight ended up getting out on time. But what I took from that, or rather learned from it, is really, especially within the airline industry, you have to have a sense of urgency. Just no matter where you are, so you can get on time. Even if it's a minute delay, it can cause a huge effect on connecting passengers and so on and so forth. So essentially, I just made an error in timing, and what I learned from that is I just instill in myself a sense of urgency all the time.
Okay. I like that. Obviously, one of the things that we try to maintain here at our organization is we try to create a safe and comfortable work environment where our employees not only enjoy working for this company, but they also feel that it's something that is worthwhile to them. I'm going to give you a scenario, and I want you to, there's no right or wrong answer to it. I just want to know, tell me how you would feel in that situation and how you would react to it.
Okay.
Say another employee or a supervisor were to put you in an uncomfortable situation and ask you to do something that you felt was compromising to either safety, your principles, the company's principles, or what was the due rights of an individual, where that you felt like they were going to be wronged in a manner that was unacceptable. How would that make you feel if you were observed or were wronged in that kind of manner?
So if I observed,
yes, we'll start with that. If you observed another employee mistreating or taking advantage of it in a serious light of another employee, how would that make you feel?
Well, personally, that would make me feel good.
It'd make you feel good?
No, no, it wouldn't make me feel good.
Okay.
If just if the company or an employee was just mistreating another employee, I don't think any person, or just not even employee, but just on a personal level, deserves to be treated like that.
Okay.
So what I would do is that just step in and intervene. Again, depending on the situation, maybe you might have to have like a supervisor or another supervisor step in, or a person of authority.
Well, let's make a little bit more of a specific example. Say we had an individual discriminating against another individual based off of the color of their skin or their race. Tell me how you would if you observed that situation. How would you handle that?
Well, personally, I would step in and call them out on it.
Okay.
Just because that's never okay on any level.
Okay.
And depending on how that individual discriminating reacts, maybe then I contact a person of authority and get them involved. But just call them out on it first on a one-on-one level, and then if it escalates past that, then contact a person of authority and really assess the situation from there.
What if you observed a supervisor, someone that was your superior in a situation? I'm not saying this person is necessarily I'm not saying that they are in a position where they don't have a supervisor above them. I'm saying they are your particular supervisor. If you recognize that that your supervisor was doing this to another employee or to another individual, how would you handle that situation?
Well, again, kind of same individual basis, just call them out on it. It might be, even though difficult, just being there higher ranking or have more authority over me. Just call them out on it. That's never okay according to the company policies and procedures. Yeah, just kind of similar. Just call them out on a one-on-one basis, and then contact the person above them,
Depending
and
on
then
how they,
in the chain of command, or contact if there's another supervisor around on the same level. That could be done, but yeah, just initially try and resolve it on a one-on-one basis and take it from there.
handle it on one-on-one basis first, or would you, regardless, would you take it higher after that?
If it's not resolved, then I would take it higher.
Okay, that's fair. I like that. It gives people an opportunity to be able to try and correct themselves, and then if not, obviously you would look out for the best interest of your coworkers and the company. I like
Right.
that.
I just don't want to make it more complex than it has to be, but if it has to be, then
Very good.
so be it.
Okay. I think we have one or two more questions, and then we'll wrap it up from there. When it comes to workplace environments, we're not always going to be best friends with everybody we work with. And oftentimes, when we have longer flights, I'm going to have, if I were to hire you, I'm going to have to ask you to fly with other pilots to be able to maintain the amount of time. Obviously we can't fly more than 8 hours at a time. We have to do a lengthy flight, or even if we're just flying, extremely rigorous schedules, I'm going to have, people doing shift flights. That way, nobody is overtasked or overworked. If I were to ask you to fly with somebody that potentially you might not be able to, might have disagreements with in the past, what would you prioritize, or how would you handle that situation so that you could be able to still proficiently operate as a pilot of this company?
Yeah, well, I think first and foremost, it's very normal to have disagreements with coworkers. Happens all the time. But first and foremost, we're professionals in this business, and we have a duty to perform. Yeah, just knowing who the other person is, just contact with them, just clearly set the standard that, hey, we may have had our disagreements before in the past, but first, we're professionals. We have to fly this plane from point A to point B and do it in a professional manner and safe manner as well. So yeah, that's what I would do, is just clearly establish a standard with the other person who I'm flying with, and that although the disagreements are normal, they can be tough to deal with. But yeah, it's just essentially setting that standard of professionalism that we all have to follow.
Very well, very well. I have one last question, and we'll end the interview. There's no wrong or right answer to this question. It's just it's more just I've asked you of a lot of expectations, just to kind of gauge how you would respond in situations. That way, I know what I'm investing in as a potential candidate for the position. As far as us as a company, what are things that you look for and value in a company that you would like to work for? What are things that you would like to achieve if you were to become part of our team?
Yeah, just some company values.
Not necessarily company values, more along the lines of, you're a very young pilot. You graduated recently from the University of North Dakota. You're looking for, obviously you're trying to build your career, build your name. What are things that what you would like to achieve with our company to be able to help you?
Well, what I would like to be able to achieve, so ultimately the end goal is just professionally to be a captain. I just think that's an extremely high honor.
Okay.
And then also just some personal development as well. Really just being able to provide involvement or provide opportunities to stay involved in the community, in the company. Really just be rooted in the culture. Yeah, just giving us opportunities to stay connected with one another.
Okay.
And providing, just the usual career advancements.
So maybe maybe in addition to obviously building flight hours and things like that, having some sort of morale system where we can be able to not only execute our jobs on a week-to-week basis, but also find a way to have that healthy balance so that our relationships would be outside of the workplace as well.
Right. So we're not just friends at work, essentially, where we can hang out with each other after work.
I like that.
Just kind of things like that,
Yeah, people that it's a good way to be able to bond and build trust, and that only strengthens the team at the end of the day.
Right.
I'll put that as far as a consideration with my my counterparts, and we'll see if that's something that we can be able to make happen. Thank you again for your time. I greatly appreciate it. And just for the purposes of the assignment, would you mind looking into the camera and saying your name and your student ID?
My name is Sam Johnson, and my student ID is 1357459.
Thank you.